Just when you think that EA can't get any worse than they already are, that they can't knock it out of the ballpark with their bullshitty, underhanded, corporate BS, they go ahead and prove us wrong. So 2 news stories hit this week. One was to do with loot boxes, or should I say surprise mechanics, and another one was to do with a interview with Andrew Wilson at Game Daily. It's his first interview in 2 years, where he talks about both loot boxes and microtransactions, as well as Anthem and the future of BioWare and that kind of thing. Let's start off first by talking about the whole loot box fiasco that happened. I don't know whether to be angry, I don't know whether to be amused. I'm like a bit of both, because I just can't believe it. It's so bullshit. Basically this week there was a UK Parliament hearing. It was a led commission put together by the Digital Culture and Media Select Committee, and it was looking into predatory loot boxes and microtransactions in the gaming industry, as well as talking about sort of video game addiction and how publishers are dealing with this and how they're monitoring those people that are playing the games, how they're supporting them, duty of care, all those kind of things. Well, they basically summoned EA and Epic Games to attend the committee to talk about these issues. Representing EA was 2 people, Karen Hopkins, who is the Vice President of Legal and Government Affairs, and Sean Campbell, the UK and Ireland Manager. And representing Epic Games was Matthew Weisinger, Head of Marketing, and Canon Pence, who is the General Counsel. Predominantly, they were just lawyers and corporate scum, effectively. The whole actual hearing lasts quite long. It's about 2 hours roughly. If you're interested, go ahead and watch it. I'll put a link to it in the description below if you want to check it out. But it is quite lengthy, but there are a couple of points in it that I really do want to pick up on and I do want to talk about today. The first is to do with loot boxes. So when asked about the ethical nature of loot boxes in their games, this was Karen Hopkins' response to it.
Kerry?
Well, first, we don't call them loot boxes. I think that was...
Whatever term you wish to apply to them, do you consider them ethical?
So what we look at as surprise mechanics.
You, EA. It's absolutely hilarious that she's saying, we don't refer to them as loot boxes. No, you do, quite repeatedly. If we look at several tweets, all the stuff in the news, when Anthem was coming out, when they were talking about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order coming out in November, constantly EA were like, yep, no loot boxes, we've got no loot boxes in this game, no microtransactions, single player, no loot boxes here. So they were using the term loot box to show how they were listening to fans and that they were not going to have them in the game and that this was something that they should be praised for. Even Andrew Wilson himself, when asked the same thing, also tried to rebrand the term, but instead of using surprise mechanics, his response was a little bit different. Whether it's a direct purchase or this mystery box style that's become commonly referred to as loot boxes, we really think about 4 key vectors: value, fairness, choice, and fun. We want to feel like we get a good deal. Yeah, shit. We've got some live service businesses that are microtransaction fueled that have some of the highest sentiment and highest engagement in the industry. So it's actually possible to do this right. Highest sentiment and highest engagement? You mean you make the most money from it, which is effectively your FIFA franchise. Gamers generally don't like loot boxes. It's not something that we particularly like to engage in. It's not something that we're especially happy about or something that we enjoy. But obviously some people do buy them. Some people do partake in loot boxes if they've got that money or they want to get the best team in FIFA Ultimate Team, or if you design your game so that your progression is tied into loot boxes, and if you're wanting to be the best player and get the best things, then you're going to spend money. All the bullshitness that EA does, then yeah, of course, you're going to seem like you have the highest engagement in the industry because you make billions of dollars on microtransactions, and money speaks volumes. That is all that EA cares about. Wilson basically likens loot boxes very similar to sports cards or trading cards. So he actually recounts a moment from his youth when the band Kiss was selling trading cards. His friends were collectors, but Wilson comes from a religious background with parents that were wary of the band's alleged connection to Satanism. He likened the act of purchasing and opening the pack of cards and subsequently trading them with friends to the ultimate team players that consumers receive from their digital purchases. No, they're not like trading cards at all. At least when you buy trading cards, you know exactly what you're getting. You get to physically keep that trading card. It's a physical purchase. You're not having to buy a subscription to the trading cards first and then you buy the packs and don't know what's in it. No. With games, we pay $60, and then obviously if you're opening up a loot box, you're buying more on top of that. So we're not even getting the base game sometimes. It's just absolutely ridiculous. But what was really ridiculous was Karen Hopkins comparing loot boxes to toys.
This is something people enjoy. They enjoy surprises. And so it's something that's been part of toys for years, whether it's Kinder Eggs or Hatchimals or LOL Surprise. We do think the way that we have implemented these kind of mechanics, and FIFA, of course, is our big one, our FIFA Ultimate Team and our packs, is actually quite ethical and quite fun, enjoyable to people. We agree with the UK Gambling Commission, the Australian Gambling Commission, and many other gambling commissions that they aren't gambling, and we also disagree that there's evidence that shows it leads to gambling. Instead, we think it's like many other products that people enjoy in a very healthy way, and like the element of surprise.
Again, to that, I say bullshit. They are not the same thing. The only way in which they might be the same as Kinder Eggs is the fact that they are both not great value for money, and also you may get duplicates whether you bought a Kinder Egg or a loot box. They are nothing like it at all. Loot boxes are toxic. No, it's not like you're paying a base price for the ability to then purchase these Kinder Eggs, which you're doing in the game. You're paying £50 down for the game at launch, and then obviously you've got loot boxes and microtransactions that, you know, obviously EA are wanting you to buy and to pay for on top of that. So they are nothing like Kinder Eggs at all. With a Kinder Egg, you know what you're going to get. You know you're going to get a toy, you know, but with a loot box, you don't know what you're going to get. You could get a skin, you could get an armor piece, you could get a vinyl, you could get a weapon, you could get anything, you know, that you don't know what you're going to get. And often the odds are not great. Often the odds are stacked against you with crafty, underhanded mechanisms. You know, you have duplicates which you can get as well. They're just not great value for money, and you're not getting anything physically to keep, you know. You can't even like trade them with your friends or anything like that, which you can do with toys. You can share them with your friends, you can trade them with your friends. Obviously, loot boxes, you can't do that. They're crap value for money. They're gambling. They are glorified slot machines. That is what they are. They are gambling without a doubt. Call them surprise mechanisms, call them mystery boxes. They are loot boxes. They are gambling mechanics. That is what they are. You can call an apple an orange, but it's still an apple. It's absolutely ridiculous. I don't know whether to be amused, I don't know whether to be angry, I don't know how I feel, but I just think it's fucking disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. They then talk about the regulators to do with the decisions that was made recently in the Netherlands and Belgium, and this was Karen's response to it.
Holland and Belgium, or the Netherlands and Belgium, have classified the surprise mechanics as gambling, haven't they?
Belgium and Netherlands have taken a different view from every other gambling commission in the world.
Okay, why then would two of our European neighbours take that view?
They have different gambling laws, and in fact, I'm not sure how familiar you are with their views, but their views as to why these mechanics violate their laws are different. They're not the same view.
So, what that basically shows is EA are again trying to play themselves out to be the good guy, that they don't believe these regulators, it's not law, and then obviously they're going to continue to use what they consider to be their ethical surprise mechanics until it becomes law and they're told that they legally can no longer have them in games. They're not going to do anything. They're not going to change anything because FIFA Ultimate Team, their loot boxes make them a lot of money. In the end of the day, EA don't give a shit about ethics. They don't care about their players. They don't care about their community. They don't care about the quality of games that they're bringing out. All they care about is the bottom line. All they care about is money, how much money they make, how much money they've got coming in. That's all their investors care about. So obviously when it comes to loot boxes, obviously they're going to defend them, they're going to try and play them off. What I like about the fact during this hearing was that when she actually said, oh, we don't call them loot boxes, as if this is a really bad term, we call them surprise mechanics. And I think the politician actually laughed when she said it, which is just friggin' hilarious. But it wasn't EA only that were there. Epic Games were there, and they were asked about microtransactions in their game. They were asked about player engagement, how much money people were actually spending in games.
I mean, there was a story in the British press earlier this month about a 6-year-old who was using his uncle's account on PlayStation to play Fortnite. He spent £1,600 in a single day. And these stories are not isolated. I mean, what do you do in cases like that? I mean, do you offer refunds to people? Do you accept the fact that maybe someone lost control of the account and money was spent that shouldn't have been spent?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the report. The idea that you could spend £1,600 in a day sounds. I'm not sure that you can actually spend that much in Fortnite.
Well,
on a
I've got
day.
the report here from the newspaper. So I don't know if you put a complaint into the press standards body if you feel the story's not true.
So I think what was really just the whole feel from it was just how shady like both Epic Games and EA were. Neither side would give a straight answer. Both were skirting around it. When asked to give further information, to give specific numbers, I think even at one point one of the politicians, this guy was just really awesome, he took no messing, but he did actually ask him for specific numbers. Well, okay, how many people would you consider, how many play regularly, what is considered to be regularly, and out of those people that play regularly, how much money would you say they actually spend on it? And I thought at this point, oh wow, this will be really, really good, actually get to the nitty gritty, it'll be really interesting, really investigating it to see actually how much is made from this, and Epic just would not give a straightforward answer at all. Even at one point, even to sort of say, oh, well, we don't make money, it's a free-to-play game.
And I would also, as a side note, I would disagree with the statement that Epic makes money from people playing it. The games, the Battle Royale mode is free to play,
So yeah, I mean, it's absolutely hilarious. I mean, what's great is the UK politician didn't take this, didn't agree with it. He's like,
You're not charity, are you? You're not creating a free-to-play game for the joy of it.
Correct.
You don't make money out of it. I mean, you're nothing wrong with being a commercial entity, but let's not beat around the bush. You make money out of people playing the game. You can challenge that if you like, but that is the reality of the situation.
we know you make money, guys. It's a business. And he did call them out on their bullshit, which I very much liked. But it was like they were just, both EA and Epic Games were just trying to sort of play themselves off as like, the victim, like they're the good guy, they're offering these surprise mechanics and these really great opportunities to their gamers, and they're building these positive relationships with their gamers, and they're not interested in the short-term benefits that they're getting and all the earnings and everything, that they're really wanting to foster that relationship, that they're really wanting to give people an opportunity to enjoy those surprise mechanics and partake in those microtransactions. It was just absolute bullshit. So yeah, I mean, surprise mechanics, guys. That's a thing, apparently, which is totally ridiculous. It does have me worried because I am thinking, right, so does this mean that now EA are not going to call it loot boxes, they're going to call it mystery boxes or surprise mechanics, and that all those promises that they've made for Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order about not having loot boxes, not having microtransactions, are they just going to rebrand it? And they're just going to say, oh, no, it doesn't have loot boxes. It has surprise mechanics. It's fine. It's what you want. You love surprises, right? F*** off, EA. You guys have got to watch the actual hearing. It's just hilarious. It's so awkward. It's so full of just corporate scum and lawyers, and they're just spinning everything. Every question that they're asked, they don't answer directly. They're constantly spinning things and into their favor, and it's just ridiculous. And what was nice was that the politicians clearly were not buying any of this bullshit. Neither are the players, neither are gamers. We don't buy this bullshit, EA, so stop stuffing it down our throat like it's for our own benefit, because it definitely is not. It's for your benefit because of the amount of money that you make. So that's the first thing that got me really pissed off today. The second thing that we heard about was to do with Andrew Wilson's interview with Game Daily. Now, this is the first interview that he's done in 2 years. It's quite an interesting article if you want to have a read through it, but he does actually talk about Anthem. And he does talk about why he felt it failed and what the future means for Anthem and what the future means for BioWare players. And again, it just shows that, you know, EA are trying to spin it into their own story, their own side of things. That everything is about spinning something. They're never able to look at themselves objectively and to look at, you know, why did the game fail? What were the genuine reasons? No, they've got to spin it, as always. So Andrew Wilson in the article effectively lays out that one of the reasons, and he thinks the main reason apparently, that Anthem failed was because it didn't live up to player expectations, that there were two kinds of players that were very definitely in conflict, and that effectively it's our fault that the game didn't succeed and that the game was not successful. So this is what he had to say. We brought together these two groups of players who were making this emotional value calculation on two different vectors. Who talks like that? One was traditional BioWare story-driven content, that'd be me, and the other was this action-adventure type content. About the 30 or 40 hour mark, they really had to come together and start working in on the Elder game. At that point, everyone kind of went, oh, hang a minute, now the calculation is off. It's off because I've got a friend who sits in this category of player. They want to play the game a certain way. I want to play the game a certain way. The promise was we can play together, and that's not working very well. Oh, by the way, I'm used to 100 hours of BioWare story, and that's not what I got. Or I expected that this game would have meaningfully advanced the action component that we'd seen in games like Destiny before, and I don't feel like it has. So at no point does he actually touch upon the fact, you know, why the game did struggle and why it did suffer and the predominant reasons for that. And that is because it had many, many flaws when it was released. It had a very mediocre storyline at best, a cast of characters that were not overly memorable or engaging or interesting. Don't get me wrong, the flying, the combat, the gunplay was really, really fun. I really enjoyed those elements, and the lore had a lot of potential, but it was hindered by copious amounts of bugs, an unnatural amount of loading screens, a really, really weak endgame, and then don't even get me started on the terrible lackluster loot and lack of loot armor mechanics customization that existed in the game. There were so many problems with the game when it launched, and at no point in this article does he reference any of them. No, the main reason is because of these two warring players. Now, I think if you're a story-based gamer, I don't think necessarily that you want 100 hours worth of story, of gameplay. I would have been happy with 20 or 30 hours worth of of gameplay. I mean, if you play Mass Effect all the way through without really doing too many of the side missions and side content, the main story is about 20 to 30 hours, which is fine for that game because the story is brilliant. It's really in depth. You're making choices and there are definite consequences to those choices that you're making. The cast and roster of characters are memorable and engaging. So had the story of Anthem been a lot better and a lot stronger, I probably would have been a lot less critical. And, you know, the bugs, obviously, I mean, it didn't need to introduce something new and revolutionary. I guess it did with its gameplay and its flying mechanics, but certainly it didn't live up to Destiny with its weapons and its bugs and everything else that came with it. And its endgame was incredibly lackluster. And since it's been released, you know, we've only had 2 major updates, really, which was the new Stronghold and also the Cataclysm, both of which really didn't live up to expectation and were kind of lackluster and really didn't meet those promises that were made by BioWare. So yeah, at no point does he actually honestly admit why the game actually failed. He then goes on about the fact that EA are going to continue to support the game, which is really good. If we believe that at the very core the world wasn't compelling people, if we believed at the very core that the characters weren't compelling for people, or the javelin suits weren't compelling, or traversing the world and participating in the world wasn't compelling, then provided we hadn't made promises to our players, we might not invest further. IP lives for generations and runs in these 7 to 10 year cycles. So if I think about Anthem on a 7 to 10 year cycle, it may not have had the start that many of us wanted, including our players. I feel like that team is really going to get there with something special and something great because they've demonstrated that they can. And yeah, you know, I think it's good that EA are supporting BioWare and they may be able to improve the game gradually. But I'm really starting to get tired of these games that have to have a 7 to 10 year cycle. These games as a service, they don't work. More often than not, the game is released in a lackluster state. It's released incomplete, full of glitches. It's lacking content. And I think it's just lazy. You know, it's lazy for developers where they can just release these games in this state and then just think, yeah, it's fine. You know, we're going to be supporting it for 7 to 10 years. So we'll just go in and improve things and add content and add value for money later on down the road. When it comes to these games as a service, my philosophy now is don't buy the game at release. Wait at least a couple of months into it, see what the roadmap is that they're planning, see what things they're bringing out for it, see what reviewers are saying, and maybe buy it a year down the road once all that content has been released, once you get that fully fleshed out game, all the bugs and all the issues are resolved and you really get value for your money. And yeah, I'm just tired of EA constantly supporting these 7 to 10 year cycles, which I just think are absolutely awful. He does talk about the future of BioWare, and sadly it is looking like they're going to be continuing to produce a variety of different kinds of games. He says what the BioWare teams are thinking about is that we're going to build a lot of different types of games. We're going to have our core BioWare audience that's been with us for a really long time. There are kids today who are 12 years old who weren't around when BioWare started making games, and they have different expectations of what BioWare games should be in the context of the world they're growing up in. As a result of that, BioWare has to evolve and has to expand and has to test the elasticity of that brand. The teams at BioWare will continue to come to work every day and listen to their players, old and new, seek to deliver on the promises they've made to those players. That's what you're seeing with Anthem today. So what kind of games are BioWare going to make? I mean, if we're talking about games that kids today are playing, 12-year-olds, then we're talking about things like Fortnite, we're talking about, battle royale games, those kind of things, a lot of mobile gaming, that kind of thing. That's not the BioWare that I love and want. I'm all for BioWare doing something new and exciting, but I honestly feel that a game developer should develop games that they want to develop. They should make games that they're passionate about. It shouldn't be something that's based on what sells the best or what's the most popular at the time. Gaming is an art form, so it should reflect that for the developer. If they want to make an amazing single player experience, an amazing single player story with character driven narrative, with huge choices and consequences, then they should be allowed to make that type of game. If they want to make an always online game, then they should be allowed to make that too. I think it's something that should come from the developer. It seems very cynical. EA is always very cynical. They're always looking at what's going to get them the most money. So what's popular right now? Battle Royale. What's popular right now? Games as a service, always online. What's popular right now? Destiny. So they're always going to try and copy on that to get a piece of that pie. And I'm just really tired of it. I'm just generally tired of EA. I'm just generally tired of EA and their bullshit. So yeah, that was the news that we got this week on EA with their surprise mechanics, and also the fact that Anthem failed due to player expectation. So what are your thoughts on this latest EA BS, this latest EA debacle? Let me know in the comment section below what your thoughts are on this news. Let's get a conversation going. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, of course, hit the like button. Please hit the bell or subscribe if you'd like to see more. Anyway, hope you guys are having a great week. Take care, guys. And as always, happy gaming. Bye, guys. Coffee, eh?